And hello to...
I'm TV and I'm still smiling. After that, I was watching it backstage.
Good, and hopefully you'll still be smiling at the end of this session we have. So. Don't usually do this, but to let the audience into the green room, there's obviously a lot of miking up happen, a lot of small talk. And Carolyn, you've been CEO of ITV for 6 years, around about 6 years
Almost.
now. And if anyone had any doubt about whether she still has enthusiasm for doing the job, she was intently listening to Brian Weezer's talk just now and had lots of comments, which I won't repeat in front of the audience. Maybe we'll get into it if you like, but it was quite interesting to hear you commentate as he was speaking with Justin. So, as Steve said, we're here to talk about ITVX 1 year on, and Carolyn was kind enough to speak at our Future Media conference, which happens in London every October, when you were just about to launch ITVX. So that was very much a UK audience. This is a more international audience. Thank you for flying in. Explain, let's go back to basics. What was the challenge that you were trying to solve? You already had, you're a public service, the UK's biggest commercial broadcaster. You already had a video on demand platform, ITV Hub. What was the problem with it? What problem were you trying to solve by launching ITVX? Why rebrand? Why launch a new platform?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, just a step back, which is ITV 6 years ago was an analog, linear company. And everything kind of revolved around that. And we had our studios division, which I think is a very important part of our overall strategy, which we might come on to. But studios is B2B, selling content to others, right? But as a network, we were very analog, and we didn't have a platform. So ITV Hub was not really a platform. It was just a very basic catch-up service. And when you look at what's happening around you, not just today, but even 8 years ago, you would say ITV had to have its own streaming service. And it's a really easy thing to say. It's quite a hard thing to deliver. But actually, once we had built, so we had to build the digital kind of foundation. We didn't have any data scientists. We didn't have a head of data. We had research. We had a load of viewer research, which is a very different thing. So really, I think the first 2 or 3 years, it was about transforming broadcast, if you like, into becoming not what we did brilliantly on linear. It was about doing what we did on linear very well, but also really thinking through how we could set up a successful streaming service by leveraging all the assets and abilities that we had in linear, but really amplifying them in streaming. And streaming is different. It's different. And so we had to build the technology, we built the platform, we built Planet V, we bought Videology, as you might remember. So we had the ad stack as well as the digital foundations to be able to do not just an SVOD service, which we launched with first. And I do agree with Brian. I think a lot of broadcasters underestimate that, direct to consumer, that subscription revenue is just an important profit stream to have. It's not more important than AVOD. I think AVOD is where our future business is always going to be and our current business is. But we got all of those pieces in place, really, before we could do ITVX. But we were all sure, even 4 years ago, that we needed to do a very strong streaming service. And so the difficulty, and I said this to you last year, we were doing it from a standing start, and we had to bring in quite a lot of new capability to do that, which we did. And we now have, a huge amount of data, 40 million registered users. Since launch, we've had 2.5 billion streams on ITVX. But most importantly for me, the really big goals were better user experience, infinitely better than they were getting on Hub, because Hub was a real barrier to people coming in to what would be the newer future side of ITV, whereas ITVX really exemplifies, good user experience. We've got personalization coming in now, only just now, so kind of 9 months in, but a really good personalization engine. Planet V is a very effective, targeted, personalized way of advertising. The agencies seem to really like it and use it a lot. So it's all come together. And I think the most pleasing thing for me is that we're attracting more light viewers as a result of it. So we have, if you have 40 million people registered on ITVX, that's huge. Just to give you context, we work very closely with Boots on Matchmaker, one of our products. They have 16 million on their loyalty cards. So to have 40 million, That's amazing. But the thing is, we need those people to access ITVX and to become monthly active users. And that our monthly active users have gone up considerably, 20, 25%. But in addition to that, our light users are coming into ITVX, that 96% increase on that. And when they come, they're staying to watch other things. Because what was happening on Hub is if you were a rugby fan, you'd just come in and you'd go. Or if you were watching World Cup football, you'd come and go. Or Love Island, you'd come, you'd watch the whole thing and you'd go. Now, 88% of people that are coming in to watch those big flagship shows are watching other things. So all of those things matter as much, I think, as the big launch and the brand of ITVX. And people see it as more contemporary, more modern, and much more usable. So that's where we are today. Still loads more to do. I mean, loads more to do.
Yeah, so it sounds like not just something that you did maybe in reaction to the pandemic, but actually this has been something that sounds like it's been years in the making. I mean, when did you actually make the decision internally that we needed to do this?
I think we set out our strategy, which was in 2 phases, and we said it had to, it became an externally used phrase, but it was really only intended to be internal, which was more than TV. Because if you have, I mean, Brian is right, if you come from that background of TV, there's a mindset, there's a way of doing things, there's a, it's very TV-centric. And I had to get people to see that we were no longer just TV, that we had to be much more than TV to succeed and thrive in the future. And therefore we set out our stall to say, we have got to be a digital player, but we had to build all of it, as I said. So phase 1 was kind of really transforming that whole broadcast division, really augmenting our studios division content and just really, really understanding direct to consumer, because ITV had never been in direct to consumer. Viewers are viewers. You don't have any interaction with them, right? Really, except when they complain about a show, and that's, that feels more remote. Direct to consumer is when they're paying you money, you have to listen, that kind of thing. We had no experience of that, so it was building that. Phase 2 was then supercharged streaming and optimized broadcast. So we were then in a position to be able to launch ITVX and really optimize what we do in broadcast and be more efficient and more productive and continue with the studio strategy, which is really important diversification to the obvious linear advertising recession that we're experiencing right now. And I think there is an advertising recession more generally in the UK, actually. It's not just about TV.
Yeah, why is that? That was something that was discussed with Brian Weezer just now. I mean, what's happening in the UK? I mean, you, at one earnings call, you called it the worst advertising recession since the financial crash. What's going on?
Well, I mean, you can see it, you can feel it, and you can see it out there. I mean, cost of living crisis, two wars, but particularly Ukraine, with energy prices going through the roof. I mean, people are not, they have savings because of COVID. So it's not as if there isn't some household money. There is, but there are many, many people that don't have those savings who would have in the past have been spenders. So consumers' confidence is very, very low. You look at every index. Business confidence, I think, is beginning to feel a bit better, but business confidence has been very low. You just look at it, there's no M&A activity, much to talk of. There's private equity can't get their money away because rates are so high. So interest rates, inflation. The UK is in a kind of, I know technically we're not in recession, so Rishi will tell you that all the time, Rishi Sunak will say that all the time, but the fact is it feels like a recession to a lot of people, and they're not going to do spending in the way they were spending in 2019 or 2021, post-COVID. Massive bounce back. So I'm being, totally honestly, we're very realistic about linear TV. There is definitely a cyclical effect, so this cost of living and all of that I've just described. There's also a structural effect, of course there is, right? And the skill, I think, is to really make sure that as a company, you are getting the transition right to ITVX, to IP and more. So it's kind of being, for audiences to be able to access you wherever they want, whenever they want, but you've got to make sure that transition is a very profitable transition, rather than simply looking at it and saying, if you're the BBC, you can say, they don't have to monetize what they do on the BBC, and therefore they can make those transitions without thinking about the commercial model. We have to think about the commercial model all the time. So it's an important transition. I believe there will always be, for some time to come, I mean, you look at the next 8 to 10 years, mass reach through linear will still be an incredibly important thing to advertisers. But so will digital targeted advertising. And it's important for us that we take our place in that digital revenue bucket that he was talking about, that marketeers have to think about all the time. And that's what we're doing with Planet V, and that's what we're doing with all the things you've heard about over the last couple of days, about ad innovation, about data matching, about there's so many products that we've launched that are going to keep us very relevant in client minds. Yeah,
and we'll get into a lot of that because definitely there are lots of facets to what you've been doing in your 6 years at ITV, and I talked to so many more different senior people within your organisation than I used to 5 years ago. So
Good.
It's really interesting. In a perverse way, given that your first year of ITVX has happened in such a tough advertising market in the UK, has that actually, in a perverse way, been advantageous? Because we've seen with streaming platforms, they've had to increase prices. If you're trying to make money from an SVOD platform when cost of living is high, consumer confidence is low, it's tough. They've had to increase prices. Does that actually make the case for more AVOD?
Yeah, I think, look, we research this all the time. Consumers love free-to-air. They really, because the quality of the content you're getting on ITVX is extremely good, right? It really is. Dramas are amazing. They do really, really well on ITVX. We've had the Rugby World Cup, we've had Big Brother, we've had Love Island. We've had The Long Shadow, which has been one of the most successful dramas ever made, really. I mean, in the last 4 years. So when you look at that quality and you say, okay, here in the UK, people know that they're watching advertising, they're getting it for free. That's not an issue for us. That's not a barrier. That's very positive. And we have ITVX Premium, which has got the library of BritBox, all of BBC and ITV, and all of ITVX content ad-free.
Yeah, and how many people are subscribing to ad-free ITVX then?
So about 1.5, 1.3, something like that. And I think there's more to do there. I mean, I think there's definitely more we can do, but our priority has been user experience and advertiser experience. We've been very, very focused on those two things because really we are an advertising leader. We pride ourselves on being very good with clients and agencies and listening to them and working with them. And we've done a lot of that and tried to get the ad products right on ITVX. So it's been our focus. It's not to say we won't look at the subscription layer more and how we develop that. We will do that. But we've been very focused in this last year.
Yeah, okay. As you mentioned, 2.5 billion streams. That was a number you announced in November. It took you just 4 months to hit 1 billion streams. And going forward, you've talked about launching new ad formats on ITVX, like pause ad,
yes.
Pause a program, see an ad. Contextual ads. I think it was in Hall 2 yesterday. We've heard Jay Rajdev talk about advertising against particular moments, getting AI to tag all of those moments within shows and advertise against that potentially. And you're raiding other SVOD platforms, not Netflix, for box sets as well, which is really interesting. We'll get into that as well. I think
raiding is a great wrong term. We pay for those quite a lot of money, but actually they do very well. So I think the way you do content is really, really important going forward, which is to really understand what your viewers want. They want high quality British drama. They want live sport. They want live. So they love live entertainment stripped because it's like an appointment to view. They love that. But they also really like, with us, US acquisitions. So we have quite a big, I mean, it's quite a niche audience, but it's a really valuable audience, people coming in for what you've just said, but we're hardly raiding them.
It's a very interesting thing that's happening where you've got this, I've heard it described as a secondary market where you can go to Disney, and Rita Ferro from Disney was on earlier, and you can say, hey, your shows, we can run it free to air in the UK. Let us do that. And that's happening quite a lot. That's quite interesting.
It is quite interesting because they wouldn't have done that before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's very interesting things happening between different broadcasters in terms of how you're doing deals. But within that, how do you stay distinctive? How do you, some people uncharitably describe some SVOD streaming platforms as like a modern version of Blockbuster Video and bargain basement things.
Nothing wrong with Blockbuster Video.
But how do you say distinctive if you're just kind of building a library of?
Well, because we're not. I mean, it's probably I think it's probably 5% of what we do. I mean, the rest of it is ITV Studios makes, about 30% of shows for. They all tend to be very high quality dramas, or they tend to be unscripted shows, new formats, and then the rest of it a lot of it we'll commission from indies, and we work very closely with the creative community in Britain. But really, all our shows, and we will obviously, if we're running Love Island UK, because we've made it in Australia and we've made it in America, we'll also run that on ITVX. And that works really, really well. But largely what we're doing is we're making kind of shows originated in Britain about British society, people, events, whatever it might be. That's predominantly what our distinctiveness is, and we've really got a name for true crime. We've really developed that as a genre, and that does very well for us. For example, our entertainment shows, I think, are known to be, leading in the world, actually, not just in the UK. So we're very distinctive, and our news. I mean, it's worth me just saying, the way we do news as a PSB is very different, even to the BBC. I mean, we do regional news really, really well. And if you look on ITVX today, we launched yesterday a rail of news, and you can go into your area and you can get regional updates. So that's another big step forward for ITVX, because that took us a little while. It's complicated to do. So we're very distinctive. I think if you go onto ITVX, you kind of know this is like ITV on steroids kind of thing. It's like a ramped up version of ITV, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and how do you think ITVX can maintain its share of streaming as the ad-supported streaming universe expands?
I think it's not so much. I think the more you do, the more your streaming hours are going to come in. It's more about how we compete. Was that me? It's more about how you compete for audience in a world that is so full of choice. Some of it is good, some of it is bad, some of it is, but it's all choice. And I think we have learned that the way we market and the way we communicate, because it's not just about marketing, it's about events, it's about personalized communication with people who want to know what's coming up. So you go from very big to very small, and we still use a lot of very big communication. But even that, the tone of that has changed. So it's really about attracting the audience. And then, of course, distribution is so critical. So I was at something in the States where the heading was "Content is king, but distribution is King Kong." And I thought, that is right. That is so right today. If you don't get your head around that, and you have only a broadcast head on, you're completely screwed. Because if you don't deal with the thousands of platforms that you could deal with, some very small, some major platforms, but how you deal with them, they all have different technologies. You've got, so ITVX launched on, I think, 90% of platforms at launch, right? That was really hard. That's the one thing that slows you down. But, that's been a really big step change for us. But just go back to this thing about creativity and advertising. I think it's quite important that we launched something called B, which
Studios, Brands and Entertainment.
Yeah. And this is a real distinctive attribute for us, I think, which our content is, but so is the way we work with the advertising community. And the reason we launched that is because there are some clients that use us brilliantly, like M&S and Boots, for example, eBay, where they use everything that we do really effectively, including content. So with Boots, they do a lot of product placement in Love Island, but they also do beach tutorials, which we make for them. So we film little pieces of stuff where Love Islanders say how they do their makeup using Boots products or hair or whatever it might be. But it's content, it's data matching, so we match data with them, and that's very effective. I think the Love Island work they did is they got a 51% sales increase on the products that they put into that show. So it's a multiple kind of touch point. And B is about being able to make content that really, really understands the audience they're trying to reach, and then connecting with that audience through data, but also through brand advertising and through targeted advertising to get as many people watching it. It's a very different thing. M&S have done it brilliantly with Cooking with the Stars, and our commissioners love that show, so they've recommissioned it again, not because it's ad-funded entertainment, because it's a really good show. So that's the kind of thing we can do much more of, and that's why launching that has been quite important, because it's very distinctive to us. You know, the Beeb can't do it. I think no one else really can do it like us, because we also have our own studios division, where they will start getting involved right at the very beginning and make that program. But because they understand ITV and the commissioners, they can make that program so that it will be recommissioned.
Yeah, and
see what I mean?
That's very interesting, because I don't know how many people would know this, within the UK, but studios is actually a bigger proportion of your business now than the advertiser, the ad sales business.
It's definitely more revenue, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously difficult this year with the writers' strike and selling to the US, maybe hard. I mean, does that put more pressure on AB Studio in order to get that off?
No, I think Studios is really doing very, very well. I mean, it is interesting. One Piece is a show, ITV America show, and it was the #1 show on Netflix, made by ITV America in 46 countries. So amazing. So they make brilliant content. And then Squid Games, The Challenge, was made by ITV Studios and Stephen Lambert, and that was the #1 unscripted show on Netflix in everywhere it went. So what I'm trying to describe, I suppose, is that Studios is a formidable content producer, and advertisers can leverage some of that to make shows for them that go on ITV, and then do a whole range of other things for their products as well as their brand. And I think that, so they, you know, writer's strike, yes, thank heavens it's done, but that will just mean we haven't been able to produce, so we've had to displace shows into 2025. So yeah, it hit to 2024, but it's not gone away. We'll still get the shows.
But it's quite interesting in terms of where it seems like you're going in this chapter of your tenure as ITV CEO, looking very much internationally. And you mentioned Planet V as well. So studios selling content abroad, Planet V, Sky in the UK is now part of Planet V, but you've got some
STV's part of it.
You've got some European broadcasters as well. Yeah, so that's very much potentially a global proposition. It seems like
it would be a European proposition.
It seems like, are you basically trying to make ITV a global, not a global broadcaster, but a global media company?
So I think what we will always be is a national champion. So ITV is UK in terms of viewers, but it has a very large global footprint, because we're in 13 countries around the world already with ITV Studios, and they make programs for all of the streamers and broadcasters and cable and, you know, pay. So we've expanded that global footprint. You're absolutely right, and we're already in kind of collaboration with broadcasters across Europe, and I think we'll do more of that with Planet V. I think you're right. I think the more important thing for us, that global is important, but the more important thing for us is to have a really diversified business. So linear advertising, you know, as I said, cyclical pressure, but obviously structural pressure. Digital advertising, which is ITVX, has grown double-digit every year, and has had a very strong year again this year. And that will continue. Digital advertising is going to take more of the cake, as Brian described. And we have to be right at the, you know, we have to be getting that money. And that's a growth business. And studios, even though, you know, it's been affected by writer's strike and by free-to-air, taking content budgets down. I know you're interviewing Channel 4 later, and I'm sure you'll ask this question. Yes, of course, free-to-airs will look at content, but they've got to be very careful. They can't cut so much that they don't have stuff that viewers want to watch on screen. So even free-to-airs need to commission content. So studios, I think, will continue to grow, and it is a growth business, so the market is growing about 1 to 2% even now. So that's the most important thing strategically for ITV, is to do everything we can on linear, but to really, really resource ITVX and make sure that is getting as much digital revenue as it can, and to do partnerships across both, and then to have a diversified studios business, which is growing as well.
Yeah, you weren't here earlier this morning where we had a talk from Peter Field, the advertising effectiveness guru, which was fantastic, wasn't it? And if you want more Peter Field, listen to the Media Leader podcast. We did a teaser interview a couple of weeks ago. Look out for that. He talked about he sent out a warning to you and your fellow media owners.
Personally?
Yes. Where be careful what you wish for was the words he describes, where TV's power is in driving effectiveness, long-term brand building. Yeah. Everything you've just described in terms of building digital revenue, a lot of that, if you watch the video on demand ads, are some kind of repurposed ads you see on linear, but a lot of it's going to be increasingly, you might think, short-term performance stuff. Are you concerned? Is that a concern of your sales team where you need to be mindful of that? Well,
we're very mindful of effectiveness. Impact and effectiveness, right, are the two things we talk about all the time. I do think performance, I do hate the way it's a kind of binary thing, brand, performance. It's really not. I mean, I used to do marketing, right? So it's in the real world when of course there are some things you get short-term performance on much more quickly, but it doesn't mean to say you can't do brand advertising that has also got performance metrics to it that you're measuring your ROI on. So, whether that's it's driving search or whether that's, the effect with other media is more powerful if you do it this way or that way. So, so I would say we are very focused on that. Kate Waters, who works at ITV and is, is a director in terms of strategy there, she talked about outcomes, and she talked about a lot of money that we're investing in outcomes for advertisers, which is all about measurement, and that's on linear advertising as well as on digital. And so we take that very seriously because we think that is the game. I mean, that's what, that's, and I do think, I'm afraid, I think that in agencies, a lot of people will just say, I've got to load up digital because that's what the client expects, right? Because someone in the client has said, digital's performance, and that's not, that's not always working. So if you talk to the agencies, they'll say, that's not always effective, but actually, we're under pressure to do it. So we've got a job to do there, I think, as TV, and not just TV, as a digital kind of entity as well, to say, you've got to look at this. We have to talk to the clients about that, because I'm not sure the agencies will do as much as they can, but I think we've got to get to clients to say, you've got to look at the outcomes work, you've got to look at how effective we can be by using targeted advertising, mass reach, product placement, creative partnerships. There's just a whole load of things that we can do that I think, TikTok is unbelievably popular, effective, everyone talks about it, but it does something different to what we can do for clients. And we need to be much more forceful and kind of loud about that.
Yeah. Steve's starting to hover, so I'm going to ask my last 10 questions and give you 30 seconds to respond to each. No, very quickly. Fast, how big of an opportunity do you see that? Fast, getting very excited about it, growing a lot in America, not so much here.
Yeah, huge in
Tone's
America.
Big Brother, you brought Big Brother back this year, and you've launched as a Fast channel.
Yeah, that's worked really well.
Do you see Fast as being a big part of your future briefly?
I think Fast will be a part of it, definitely.
Not
so we're already doing it. Well, I think it's, the big part is all the other stuff we've been talking about. Fast is a part of us driving, loyalty, impact, engagement, because it's quite niche. Now, it has done very well in America, and we can learn a bit from that, actually. But I think at the moment, it will grow. And as of January the 1st, 2024, we can get Fast channels sponsored and we can take advertising. So that's a big hurrah, because we can commercialize them. So there'll be more of them.
Okay, and final question. I can't let you go without talking about I'm a Celebrity. Nigel Farage is still there. I know it's an international audience. There's maybe a UK question. In case you don't know, Nigel Farage is like I think James O'Brien, the broadcaster, described him as a car boot sale Donald Trump or something like that. So you've done what NBC did in America. You put this far-right demagogue on a reality TV show.
Yeah.
How's that gone? Is it 1.5 million well spent?
Do you know, firstly, we've never said how much we pay anyone on that show, so I think I'm not going to get into that. And I think the thing about I'm a Celebrity is it makes a lot of noise whenever it's on. And this show is no exception. And it's doing, I mean, it's getting 9.6, 9.7 million viewers every single night watching that show, and Sunday will be big. So it's an entertainment show. It has lots of different views on it, and it always has had, right? So you don't just get one view on it. And he said yes.
And has he achieved
it's not popular, I can tell you. We've got a lot of emails, but we've also had emails going, this is really good, and this is a great show. So
it's not, because he's of course a broadcaster on GB News, which is a recently new news channel in the UK, and they've suffered from advertising boycotts from some quarters. Sponsors haven't been annoyed about Nigel Farage. No, actually, we haven't had any complaints from sponsors or advertisers that I know of, and I think Ellie might have told me, but I don't, he might have done, but no, not so far. Great. Everyone, please give a big hand to ITV CEO Carolyn McCall. Thank you so much. Thank you.